Welcome. Thank you for joining me, Mark Whitehead, Deborah, Michael, and the rest of the worship team here at Crescent Fort Rouge United Church in Winnipeg. We gather at the geographical center of Canada, on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, Lakota, and Dene peoples. We gather in the homeland of the Red River Métis. We gather where two rivers meet, the Red and the Assiniboine. It's been a meeting place for people from many nations for many millennia. We gather in this thin place, this liminal space where the holy in us recognizes and embraces the holy in others. There's nowhere else we need to be, and there's nothing else we need to do. Be at peace and simply be. Ourselves in valleys veiled in shadows, the healer of our lives walks alongside us, even though we may never notice.
When we are weakened by the burdens of our lives, the comforter of our souls comes to us to rest a strengthening peace upon us.
In every moment of hardship that threatens to drain us of life, God is still the life that runs through us.
In every moment of setback that carries with it shame and regret, God holds out a hand to draw us back.
In our time together, may we become aware of holy presence.
May we shake off the shadows of shame and be the hand that helps draw others back into the light.
May we offer gentleness in our approach, compassion to the wounds, and courage to leave the shadows.
May we all learn to let go of shame and live our most vibrant, authentic, and courageous life.
Please join Deborah and me in responsive prayer. In our moments of pride and confidence, you are there, Divine Spirit.
In every embarrassment and failure, you comfort us, great mystery. Thank you for your grace and love that carries us in the dark moments.
Thank you for your gentle encouragement that nudges us toward the light. Every glimpse of glory that comes our way is shared by you, Holy One.
Every shadow of shame that we experience is transformed by you, wisdom of ages. When we want to parade our accomplishments and when we want to hide from the world, your grace welcomes us, your understanding heals us, and your acceptance makes us safe, lover of all.
As we celebrate your beauty, goodness, and truth in this moment of worship, may we receive again your humility and boldness, and may we open our minds, hearts, souls, and bodies to your compassion, O God.
Amen.
Last few weeks, we've been telling lots of stories, and I'm going to invite the kids to come up to the front now as we hear a story about a man named Bartimaeus who was born blind. So some of the stories we've heard over the last few weeks, story of how Jesus, trying to make sense of what he was supposed to do with his life, found himself on an extended camping trip in the wilderness, surrounded by rocks and serpents and snakes and spiders, and tried to figure out what he wanted to do. Heard the story of how one night a guy named Nicodemus, or Nick, came to visit Jesus and asked him some questions that he didn't entirely understand the answers to. Last week we heard the story of a conversation Jesus had with a woman who came to a well to draw water. And this morning, we're going to hear the story of a man named Nicodemus who used to sit by, or Bartimaeus, who used to sit by the side of the road asking people to give him a few coins. Now, I don't know if the story happened exactly this way, but I do know the story is true. So Bartimaeus couldn't see. His eyes didn't work quite right. And that meant, in those days, he couldn't have a job, and he didn't have any money. So all Bartimaeus could do was sit by the side of the road with a bowl and ask people to put in a few coins. Well, one day, Jesus and his friends were walking along that road, and they saw Bartimaeus there, quiet, with a bowl. And one of Jesus' friends said, "That guy over there, he must have done something wrong, right? That must be why he can't see." And Jesus took a deep breath and said, "No, that's not why the man can't see." Well, then his parents must have done something wrong, right? And that's why he can't see? God's punishing his parents? And Jesus sighed and shrugged his shoulders. "No, that's not why the man can't see. The man can't see because he can't see. God didn't do this to him, and it's not a punishment. Nobody did anything wrong." But Jesus said, maybe we can help to do something to make things right. So Jesus went over to the man who was sitting with the bowl asking for coins, and he said, "So is there something you'd like?" And the man held out the bowl, and then he realized Jesus was asking him something else. And the man said, "Well, I'd really like to be able to see." So Jesus thought for just a moment, and then he bent down and he scooped up some dirt, and then he spit in the dirt, and then he made some mud with the dirt and the spit, and he rubbed it in the man's eyes. Now, I think Bartimaeus probably thought he was talking to a crazy person, but Jesus said, "Now go wash the mud away. There's a pool over there. Do you know where it is?" "I think I can find my way." So Bartimaeus made his way over to this little pool, this little well of water, sort of maybe a little like that, and he washed the mud from his eyes. And suddenly, he could see. He could see for the first time in his life. He could see a cat sitting on a step bathing in the sunshine. He could see a dog playing catch with a ball. He could see a little baby taking its first steps. He could see an older person who needed a cane to walk. He could see all kinds of things for the first time, and it was amazing, and it was wonderful, and it was exciting, and it's probably a little scary because it was all brand new. And then Bartimaeus saw something else. Some people were really happy for him. They were applauding and cheering and helping him on. And other people crossed their arms and crossed their legs and looked down their nose because they weren't happy. It was almost like they were mad that Bartimaeus was able to see. Bartimaeus didn't understand that. But he understood. He understood that even if other people didn't want him to live his life fully, Jesus did. Bartimaeus began to see that even though other people didn't understand him, Jesus understood him. And so Bartimaeus left his bowl and his coins behind, and he made his way down the road. Every week, we light a candle, as a reminder that for those of us who want to follow in the way of Jesus in the world, Jesus is sort of like a light who can guide us through the darkness. It said that in the beginning was the Word, and what God was, the Word was. And with this Word, God created everything, and without the Word, not a single thing was made.
What came into being in him was life, and his life gave light to all.
And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has never been able to put it out.
In the light of God, all is made clear. We see how much God loves us and how much God loves all people. We see Christ in our light and our truth, in Scripture and in our lives, and although we once were blind, now we see.
God's blessings are all around us. And as human beings created in God's own image, we carry that divine blessing in our very DNA.
We are blessed by God, and we are a blessing from God. Let us greet one another with signs of blessings, of love, and of peace.
And our practice here is to look in the direction of those around us and make a sign of peace, and to touch our heart as a sign of God's presence with us. And so it is that the Spirit of Christ moves in us, and the light of Christ shines through us, and in all our diversity we become a rainbow people, a community of faith in God's subversive kingdom, a community that God invites to carry the light to all the dark places in our community and in our world. The kids are going to make their way out to some supervised activities, and I'm hoping the rest of you stay here. When I was a kid growing up in a small town in southern Ontario, I had a second cousin twice removed. You know, one of those kissing cousins that you didn't see very often except at weddings and funerals and occasionally on the street. My cousin was a little older than me, probably, maybe 10 years older than me, but she was really cool. She's one of those really vivacious, outgoing people. She had endless and boundless energy. She's really smart. Now, when I was about 10, we moved away from my small town, so I didn't see my cousin very often for a few years. But then she started attending university in a city that was nearby where we were now living. And so every couple of weeks she'd come for supper and we got even better acquainted. She, like most people, graduated. She got a job. And there was a kind of a climate event, a natural disaster that ripped through southern Ontario, a tornado that took out houses and trees and roads and the communication system. And during that time, my cousin kind of worked without stop for several days, day and night, trying to keep the communications going, trying to keep the grid open, was written up in the local paper, kind of a little bit of a celebrity, put her on the fast track in the corporate world. I was at her wedding, and she was at my wedding, and when I went to school, we would travel on the commuter train into Toronto a few mornings a week. As happens in life, my wife and I moved away, and she got busy with her own family, and so we didn't encounter each other very often, but we kind of kept track of each other through extended family connections. When she was expecting her second child, she conceived of an idea. She loved babies. She loved events planning. And she decided she wanted to leave behind the kind of corporate world that was beginning to suck the life out of her and open an upscale baby boutique. She was smart. She was the president of an association of professional women. She was well respected in the community. People liked the idea. They invested in it. And the business did really well. It was launched to fanfare. And then the economy tanked. Everything that had seemed like a really good idea suddenly was becoming a really bad idea. The business started losing money. They had to close it down. My cousin and her husband lost their house. They lost the money that her family had invested in the business. They moved into a seedy hotel. Their belongings were seized by the sheriff. And my cousin, who had once been so vivacious and gifted and enthusiastic, gradually disappeared from view. Old friends didn't have time for her anymore. Her family, if they spoke of her at all, spoke in hushed tones. She withdrew deeper and deeper into herself. She didn't want to have anything to do with anybody. We didn't know how to get in contact with her. the guilt and the loss and the grief and the shame that had been placed on her by others and she had embraced for herself made it impossible for her to carry on. On a rare visit home, I learned that she was in the hospital and dropped in to see her. And my once vivacious cousin had become skeletal. She'd lost all of her teeth and a lot of her hair. Her eyes were sunken and there was no spark left in her. Sometime later, she died, quite literally, of shame. Her story, in some ways, is the story of the mainline church these days. Most mainline denominations have heard for the last 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years that our glory days are behind us, that we are failures, irrelevant, anachronistic, pointless. Grand buildings that were intended to house 800 people at 2 worship services on a Sunday are mostly empty. Each week we hear about the closing of another community of faith. In 20 years' time, the Anglican Church will disappear. 2/3 of United Churches will be gone, and those that remain will just be a skeletal crew. And there are voices that welcome this new reality. The church deserves it, after all, for the sins of our parents, the sins of our past. The Crusades, the Inquisition, the Wars of the Reformation, Indian residential school, the exploitation and abuse of children, the failure to accept and embrace those whose lifestyles were denounced as sin. And then there are other voices too, the things that those of us who are part of a mainline church say to ourselves that are a source of shame as well. Our adult children don't come. Our siblings came back in 1959 and haven't been back since. People who used to come regularly come once a month, and those who came infrequently don't come at all. We remember those glory days with packed Sunday school rooms and packed sanctuaries and packed committees. And we see all of that disappearing from view. We are failing. And the temptation when one is failing, when one is grieving, when one is lost, when one is hurt, and when one is either ashamed or being shamed, is like my cousin to withdraw. To either act out in anger and try and hold on desperately to what it was and to lie to ourselves, or to just give up and to disappear. When we think about this particular community of faith, in our own history in recent years, we know that there are some who wanted us to disappear. I mean, within about a 2-mile radius, there are what, 6 big United Churches? Why do they need us? Why do we need to be here? Sell the building, put up a condo, let go of the dream. The old days are never coming back. Just cut our losses and move on. But, like Bartimaeus in the story, we refused to embrace and wear shame. We refuse to be paralyzed by our loss or grief. We acknowledged our culpability and our sin, but refused to be defined by that. And like Bartimaeus, asked only that we might see clearly who we were and what we were and who we were called to be, and the reality of the world in which we lived, but also the possibility of the road that lay ahead for us. It was the gifted leadership of many within this community that discerned the direction God was calling us to ensure that this was a place for the arts, seniors, kids, community, where lives could be nurtured and stories told and possibilities proclaimed and embraced, that the future, always uncertain as it was, could still offer an invitation to us were we willing and courageous enough to embrace it. And we did. And we are. And this morning we have the opportunity and the privilege to hear from some of our community partners and moving forward a vision and a way of being in the world that doesn't ignore the past but isn't bound by it either. We're joined by members of the Crescent Arts Center board, but we're actually joined by our friends, our companions on the way. Unlike my cousin, who was destroyed by life and racked by guilt and burdened and paralyzed by shame, we, with the assistance of others, dare to risk living life differently and faithfully and fully. Thanks be to God for that. Amen.
My friends, there will always be people who try to shame those who struggle to feel better about themselves. If we accept their judgment, we burden ourselves with another level of unnecessary pain. But we can choose to break free of shame, both for ourselves and for our loved ones and our neighbors.
And the first thing we can do to release shame is to actively refuse to believe and perpetuate the lie that God uses suffering as punishment. Because if the cross of Christ tells us anything, it's that God is always present to and in solidarity with those who suffer and those who struggle.
Pain is not a judgment on sin, and blessing is not a reward for goodness. Adversity is simply a reality in every human life, and there is no reason to feel shame when we struggle, nor will shaming ourselves or others keep us from suffering in the future.
If we are to release our shame, we need to actively and intentionally claim our dignity and humanity in the midst of our struggles.
When we face our challenges with courage and acceptance, which means rejecting the temptation to blame ourselves or others, we preserve our humanity, and we are able to respond to our adversity with dignity.
We will never live without tears or wounds or setbacks, but we don't have to add shame to the list of the struggles that we face. Because shame will never empower us. It will only rob us of our humanity, our compassion, and our courage.
As we recognize and draw comfort from the divine presence in our struggles, let's release shame, whether it comes from others or from within us, and let's do what we can to help others to do the same.
In the words of a very wise man, ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. It's my pleasure at this point to invite Sharon Bajer to come over and move us forward, and Sandy Howell, and move us forward into the next portion of our morning.
As most of you know, I'm not Sharon, I'm Sandy. I have the honor this morning of speaking to you about the bridge between what Mark has explained to us this morning and the Crescent Arts Center, its formation, and how did we get to this moment in time. So, as Mark said, some time ago, it was actually 2016 into 2017, when the congregation of Crescent Fort Rouge United Church ratified our pathway into the future, which involved focus on community, those outside of our walls, for children, youth, and families, for seniors, and also for hospitality to the arts. We rejected the idea of putting up a condo, knocking down the building, and selling off the green space. And so we happily carry on with that value system. So in figuring all of this out, the first question was, well, it's a vision. Is it feasible? And so we set out for several years to see if it was feasible. And we proved indeed, for 100% certain, in the area of children, youth, and families and seniors, it is feasible. And now we are seeing that that is sustainable. But the question on the table was, how do we do it for hospitality to the arts? We had many decades-long tradition of choirs and vocal groups using the building. So how do we build on that? What do we do? We studied various models at other United churches, including Trinity St. Paul's in Toronto and Sydenham in Kingston, who had successfully transitioned solely in that direction. And so we took their wise counsel and studied their documents. What did they do? And then we decided, well, that's there. That's Toronto and Kingston. What about Winnipeg? So I talked to a few people that I knew. One of them was Heather Bishop. And I said, what do you think of this idea? She said, well, it's probably feasible, but let's talk to Mitch Podolak. And that's when life changed in a big way for many of us. And we did talk to Mitch, and Mitch was terribly excited because he had actually rented the place for several concerts. And he, as Mitch did, saw a huge world of possibility in this concept. And so we began to discuss that. Ian was involved. I think we dragged Doug into it at some point, and I think we even had Linda in it at some point in the early days discussing this with Mitch. Mitch fell ill. Leonard was brought into the picture. Mitch had a vision of doing a series of large concerts, 5 in a year, big ones, I mean big. Leonard said, no, we're not doing that. We're doing something called Cranky Fest. And so that was sort of a side road to tell you, what is this about? So Leonard started carrying things into the future with that. But the one thing that all of that told us was, your strength in doing this is in creating a third-party, not-for-profit, legally incorporated entity outside of the church. Well, it happened to dovetail with the United Church at that time, who said, the United Church itself will not be allowed to create third parties. So we went, well, what the heck will we do now? And so we just went ahead, we being some of us outside of the church legal entity, and we registered a name, and we got a couple of directors, and poor Brian Glow, who sits here today, happened to walk into Mitch's hospital room, and Mitch said, sign this. You're now the... And Brian said, sure, Mitch. And became a director of the Crescent Arts Center. We had representatives from the church, which at the time was Ian Fillingham and I, also involved. And on we went from there. As you well know, Mitch died. The pandemic came. And we have been sitting in idle, as have an expanded board presence of people here today whose lives and careers were also put on hold by the pandemic. In that intervening time, we've had people arriving, like Grant Simpson, who's become a big part of many of our community outreach things. We have the Crescent Arts Center board members who have weathered all of this, including the ups and downs of their personal lives and careers, and the re-emergence of that, and have stuck with this board, for which I am deeply grateful. We also had the arrival of the Keep Theatre as artists in residence. Where are you? You're there. And Carson is there. And they arrived very early in the story, and so a much larger theatre presence was created. It's been added to by the Village Conservatory, and we have grown in quiet ways. And this presence has grown in quiet ways, and we are much more known now for our hospitality to the arts in this place. And so we proved it's feasible, and we're working on sustainability. I remain deeply grateful to the board and all of its associations and sticking through what has been quite a ride. I remain hugely grateful to the people and the staff of Crescent Fort Rouge United Church for having the faith to sort of going, what's happening now? And having the faith to show up and support things like Cranky Fest at the board and the village when they come and they live here for a month in February every year, and all kind. And there's Kara, and her and JD continue to practice in here as they have for well over a decade. And all of these wonderful people. Justine is here, and she has done our Women's Aboriginal Film Festival with us several times. So thank you to all of you. You made all of this possible, and we're just going to keep going. Over to you.
Thank you, Sandy. For those of you who don't know her, Sandy Howell is very much the hot iron of progress around here. If there's a grant to be had, she'll find it. If there's a connection to be made, she'll make it. And if there's a wrinkle to iron out, she'll double starch it. Thank you for that. Little joke. Sandy is a visual artist practicing a number of media. She was retired from a long career dedicated as an educator to the essential or foundational skills of Canadians, and is now working as the Director of Business Development and Innovation at the Manitoba Institute of Trades and Technology, where she describes as her dream playground. I am your host and CAC board member, Sharon Bajer. Sandy and I are very lucky to be joined on the board by other prominent members of Manitoba's art scene, many of whom, well, all of whom you'll meet this morning. The Crescent Arts Center's mandate is to create an inclusive community hub that provides an essential home for the gathering that feeds our souls. And we thought the best way to present the CAC to you is for the board members to share a little bit of their work, much of which has been created or rehearsed right here in this building. Our first performer, Kara Luft, can be seen or heard many days of the week, usually in the narthex, and that's the first time I ever heard that word, narthex, in this building. It's always such a pleasure to have her around. Kara is an award-winning musician, singer, and songwriter, a plucky performer with an impish sense of humor, see, there it is, and a founding member of two Canadian folk supergroups, the Wayland Jennies and the Small Glories. Yeah. Brought up by folk singing parents in a vibrant music community, Luft is one of Canada's hardest working musicians, armed with amazing tenacity, vision, energy, and a contagious hilarity. Over to you.
Thanks, Sharon. I have loved this space and this community for a very long time. I got to know Barb Janes, who was the minister here a while ago, and Irene, who was also a minister, and now Mark. I think I was doing, I was asked to do a fundraiser concert when there was a family living. You guys there was a refuge. Yeah, so I was part of that, and there was something else that I was part of. And I remember during that time in my life, I didn't have a rehearsal space, and Barb said, "Oh, we'll give you a key to the building." And then they never asked for it back. So then JD and I started the Small Glories, and I was like, well, I have this key. And I did actually reach out to the staff here, and they gave me the blessing. But we love rehearsing in the end. We call it the North. I didn't even know it was called the Narthex, but the entryway. And everybody thinks that's so weird that we rehearse there. But it's great. Great acoustics. So thank you for welcoming me into your space and into your lives. I've met many of you just meeting in the bathroom. Well, okay, maybe we don't really talk much in the bathroom, but anyways, it's great to be here, and I'm truly honored to be part of the Arts Center board. Sandy, you're a gem. Thank you for doing all the work that you do and getting us all on board, and I'm excited that we are out of holding pattern and we're starting to move forward. So I thought I would do a song that I have sung in this space many times. It's a song called Only Love Can Save Me, and it's got a great sing-along chorus, so I thought I'd invite you to sing along because this space sounds great with people singing. The chorus is very easy. The words are, only love can save me, only love can save me. And it is a bit early, but we can do it.
Surround me after giving you everything. I've asked the light to come and find me. Tell the devil it's time to leave. Only love can save me. 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 I'm calling to the Holy of Holies, waiting for her face to shine and be cradled in the arms of the mother, held tightly through the night. Only love can save me. 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 Digging out from all the lies and sorrow. Send that ladder down from on high. I'm gonna climb all the way to heaven. The gates are in my sight. Only love can save me. 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 I'm shedding all the pain inside me, burning fires through the night. I rub the ashes all over my body. Take a step into the light. Angels singing glory, hallelujah. I can hear them call my name. Send the devil packing south of the border. I won't be in darkness again. Only love can save me. Only love can save me.
kids are singing along.
Thanks, Kara. I love hearing you here. Another one of our board members is renowned musician Heather Bishop, but she could not be here today due to driving conditions. But maybe Brian Glow can make her appear later in the program. Maybe. Heather has received the Order of Canada for her life's work in activism, the Order of Manitoba, and an honorary doctorate of laws. Most recently, she was called upon the Prime Minister to sit on the Independent Advisory Board for Senate appointments. Retiring from touring, Heather has returned to her easel, to her first love, portrait painting. Heather brings in world-class artists to give workshops on her land in southern Manitoba, where she is currently snowed in. Heather continues to live many lifetimes in her current avatar, morphing most recently into an educator, keynote speaker, and master hypnotherapist. Her vision is of a world that is socially just, environmentally sound, and spiritually fulfilling. Our next board member and artist is Justina Niepen. Justina is a Cree filmmaker and producer who, along with her sister Jenna, created J.J. Niepen Films. The pair have produced numerous short films that have played at national and international film festivals. Justina is involved with the Indigenous Filmmakers Association and has gone on to become one of the co-founders of the Indigenous Film Summit. A woman dedicated to her arts practice and her community, when Justina isn't working, she volunteers her time with the Winnipeg Indigenous Filmmakers Collective and teaches workshops. This piece, ready to go? This piece is called Solo, and it's a film that she made for a 48-hour film festival, and Crescent Fort Rouge was the main location used in the film. Michael, you have hidden talents. That was great. Where's Justina? Can you stand up and say hi? That's great. If anyone were to be dubbed the quintessential entertainer, that someone would be our next performer, Grant Simpson. He has been immersed in music and theater from the very moment he hit the ground running. Bouncing around from live shows on cruise ships to musical theater and summer stock productions, in 1980, Grant set down roots in the Yukon as the musical director of the Frantic Follies Vaudeville Revue. For the next 48 years, the Follies consumed Grant's creative energy, composing, creating, producing, and directing the non-stop hit show Leaving the North for Manitoba in 2018. Simpson brought his amassed acting and directing skills to the Prairie Vaudeville Revue. I think you guys are next. Grant is joined by Tim Osmond, who does his absolute darndest to surround himself with music at all times. You can even catch him at his desk picking up a banjo to the backing up beep of the dump truck outside his window, which is, I think, an F, right? So no. Under the mentorship of Mitch Podolak and Ava Kabrinsky, Tim originally quarterbacked the development of the volunteer presenter component of Home Roots, a nonprofit arts organization that plans house concert circuits across Canada. I'm next. I've been involved with the CAC since 2018 when I became artist in residence here with my company, The Keep Theatre. Inspired by my incredible father-in-law, Ken Natras, who began the process of revisioning the future of this beautiful space, I have been helping to shape and implement the collective desire to follow that vision. I am an actress, playwright, director, and in 2019, I began writing a musical with my collaborator Duncan Cox, who will now join me to perform an excerpt of Afterlight, premiering in September. Accompanying us is our music director and arranger, Paul DeGers, who has also been creating incredible work here with the students of the Village Conservatory of Musical Theatre. Afterlight is about a vampire, played by Duncan, who is tired of living forever and an old woman at the end of her life that doesn't want hers to end. Can you grab me my glasses and my script over there? Yeah. Thank you. This is how you know I'm an old lady. I used to make these glasses. Afterlight is inspired by some of the members of the congregation who very generously volunteered to be interviewed about their thoughts and experiences on life and loss. Special thanks to the vampires who prefer to remain anonymous.
You're a historian.
Yes.
A lover of history.
Oh, history buff, are you? Raz? Can I call you Raz?
No. It's Razvan.
Well, to be honest, Aslan, my memory is so unreliable that I'm certainly not a very good historian anymore. It seems that age has humbled me. The names and dates get jumbledy. Sometimes I get the facts confused.
If you start to get them wrong, I'll put them back where they belong. And maybe, Wanda, I can show you things that even you don't know. The mysteries of history.
The secrets of antiquity. We'll try to keep consistency through the mysteries of history. You know, if we're going to start talking about history, I think you should have a look at my extensive library. She pulls out a cloth and shows a bunch of books in her apartment.
So many books!
Oh yes, I love imagining that I could have lived in all these times. Of course, we don't know exactly what they were like. That's the fun, studying the facts and then imagining the mystery of it all.
Constantine Brâncuși.
Oh, you've heard of him? One of the most important Romanian sculptors of the 17th
century. Yes, he was my great-great-great-grandnephew.
Really?
Suleiman the Magnificent.
Oh yes, the 10th and longest reigning sultan of the Ottoman Empire. I have several books about that.
Suli had the most wonderful harem, a sumptuous smorgasbord.
You have a clever view of life. For one so young, your mind is rife with knowledge of so many things, of times gone by and queens and kings. You really know your stuff indeed.
I love to read about the ones before Newton, Galileo, Rabindranath Tagore.
The mysteries of history.
Princes, poets, and papacy.
Michelangelo and Da Vinci paint the mysteries of history. I like a young person who appreciates philosophy and art. But you know, behind every celebrated man, there's a woman holding a sword.
She throws him a sword.
Catherine the Great inspired rumors. Her stallion whinnied when she dropped her bloomers. And then she wed King Henry VIII.
No, that's Catherine Aragon. This is Catherine the Great. You know, she got freaky with her horse.
Of course, men just couldn't stand that her sexual palate
was more than bland.
Catherine liked it spicy, that's why she ruled the land.
The mysteries of history, covetous rewrites of thee. The horse-drawn carriage of adultery pulls the mysteries of history. Is the lost Atlantis real?
I'd ask Amelia Earhart if you want the real deal.
But she disappeared and no one ever found her.
Well, maybe the Atlantans all around her would surround her. They crowned her.
Oh, that's nice.
Or they drowned her.
In another life, I might have been a stripper.
What?
If I weren't so rattled by Jack the Ripper.
Rippin' Jackie's not so bad. Man, he dripped the best snacks I ever had. Vintage 1891.
Now, son, let's get one thing straight. I was born in 1938.
There's something about the 30s that livens up the plate.
The mysteries of history, pagan gods and witchery, scandals full of trickery, specifically for publicity. The mysteries of history,
The secret
beyond duplicity,
beats beyond duplicity.
the mysteries of history. Performance hat off, performance glasses off, host hat on. With the ultimate goal of creating the most memorable experience you have ever imagined, Brian Blow has traversed the globe for the past 5 decades, speaking the international language of fun and leaving audiences delighted, amused, and asking, how did he do that? His award-winning one-man comedy, magic, and mind-reading production soon morphed into one of the largest touring magical shows in North America. Glow's incredible full-scale illusion concerts have taken him to over 40 countries worldwide, entertaining for casinos, television, film, corporate events, and extravagant public spectacles. He specializes in doing the impossible, making corporate business events memorable and fun, and maybe bringing some money to the church magically. That would be nice. He has over 10,000 shows under his belt, partnering with major international events such as the Winter Olympics, Pan Am American Games, the Grey Cup, Juno Awards, just to name a few. No matter the venue, Brian creates an unbelievable magical experience that never fails to leave his audiences amazed.
Well, hi, everybody. That's a call and response. Okay. I want to invite maybe a couple of people to help me for just a moment. Possibly. I need maybe someone a little older because we need to read something. Gentleman right there, perfect. And your sidekick there. Oh, perfect. There's one. Let's get one more. Would you be kind enough to help me? Good. Give him a big round of applause. Join us. Hi, and your first name is, what is it? Laurie, nice to meet you. Laurie, just stand over here. And Carson, nice to meet you. Carson, you can stand right there on the trap door we just put in. Oh, we didn't know about that. Okay, very simple. I'm going to ask you to hold on to that. You'd be kind enough to hold on to that and maybe just stretch it out a bit. And perfect. Keep with the theme of orange there. And any time you want, all you have to do is say stop. That's your job. Okay. So anytime you want, just sit right there. Do you want to change your mind or keep that spot? Keep. Take half a step in and half a step in. Perfect. Very carefully, minding the pink stuff, I want you to cut the orange ribbon. We now open this building. No. Well, it kind of is, because, it's kind of a rebirth here. I'm just going to give a little haircut there. Just kind of, ribbon, okay. Now, for those of you who weren't paying attention, maybe we have to go back in time again, because this building is having a revitalization, where we get to start over again. I'll take that from you. And don't go away, don't go away, don't go away. What else I have here? I have an envelope. I'd like you to, if you'd be so kind, would you hold on to these? Just thank you. And just stick your hand in, make sure there's no trapdoors or mirrors or bunnies in there. Just stick your tongue out. No, I'm kidding. Tastes like mint once upon a time. We'll just seal this envelope onto the ribbon with a kiss. Smile. Good. If you'd be so kind, put your hand out like that. We have 1, you can count with me if you want, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 12 cards. Are you familiar with cards? Could you remember one for me? How about that one? You remember that one? Don't forget it, otherwise this is a stupid trick. And maybe you could remember one too. Do you see that one right there? Don't forget it. Now, for the first time ever, what was the name of your card? King of Hearts. And what was the name of your card?
Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades. This is an experiment of imagination. I want you to just imagine taking your card, the King of Hearts, out and throwing it into the envelope. It's a little hard. That's okay. That's very good. That's very good. That's a very good imagination. Perfect. Okay. And I want you to take the Ace of Spades. Ace of Spades. Good, good, good. Now, I want you to close your eyes, because they say when you rob the senses, the others become more active. I want you to throw right at the envelope. Did you hear it? Amazing. All right, I'm just goofing around. We had 12 cards. You had the King of Hearts. You see it there. What do you mean you don't? You just... Ace of Spades.
No.
Put your hand out. Okay, so we had 1, 2, 3, 4. Carefully your thumb there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait, pull that. Would you open your hand? Just reach in. The King of Hearts, the Ace of Spades, and a bit of imagination. Give them a wonderful round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Come on, give them a big hand. Thanks, everybody.
I'm very glad Mitch asked you to sign that piece of paper. That's amazing. All right. If any of you have ever booked space here recently, you will have had email communication with Daphne. But did you know that Daphne is a real person? Daphne Finlayson is an integral part of the day-to-day running of the CAC, devoting several hours each week organizing the bookings and events that take place in all areas of this building. Daphne is a graduate of the University of Manitoba with a Bachelor of Arts in Theatre and Film Studies, and her work includes producing, directing, stage managing, performing, and designing at various companies in Winnipeg. And we are very happy to have her as well. So you could just email her and say, "Nice to meet you, Daphne," because she's not here right now. And to wrap up, we have our last board member, Ian Fillingham. From the very beginning, Ian has been steeped in his love of music. 10 years singing in a doo-wop trio was just one such journey. Ian worked with many local theaters as an actor, singer, director, designer, carpenter, and technician. To date, he has sung with the Crescent Fort Rouge Choir for over 55 years and has danced with the Village Green Morris Men for more than 4 decades. Yeah? You look so young. Ian has an extensive toolkit of experience and knowledge essential in navigating the many complications of organizing and running an arts organization. Ian is the cornerstone. Yeah, go sit down, there's so much more. Ian is the cornerstone who keeps the candles lit and the fires stoked. Ian is joined by his amazing life partner, Donna. Where's Donna? Right here. Whom everyone here should know, and if you don't, you should. Donna and Ian are the heart and soul of this church, and it's fitting that we should end the program with them. But please join us afterward for food in the fellowship hall, but give them 5 minutes, because they need to put the food out. And this is just by donation, so anybody can just go and have lunch. It's going to be delicious. It looks great. Followed by more incredible music at Cafe Rouge at, I believe, 1 o'clock, unless it's 1 o'clock now. Thank you, Mark, and thank you for all of you for allowing us time to present CAC for you today.
That's better. There we are. Can we both do what you want? I am a director of the CHC, and the reason is because when Sandy asked me if I would sign the first check and be part of that, I said, yeah, I've got nothing else to do, I'm fine. But
I just wanted to say that our only claim to fame is we've been here forever. And so in 1969 we got married here, and that's when I started. So Ian's been here for 65 years and I've been here for 55. So figure that one out.
That's amazing when you're only 40 years old.
Anyway, we're going to bring you a little sunshine, we hope. Bring me sunshine in your smile.
Bring me laughter all the while. In this world where we live,
There should be more
happiness, so much joy you can give to each brand new bright tomorrow.
Make me happy
Through the years, never bring me any tears. Let your arms be as warm
as the sun
from above.
Bring me fun, bring me sunshine, bring me love. Bring me sunshine,
in your eyes.
Bring me a rainbow, from the sky.
Life's too short to be spent having anything but fun. We can be so content if we gather little sunbeams.
Make me happy, all day long, and I'll keep singing, my happy song.
Let your arms be as warm
as the sun from above. Bring me fun, bring me sunshine, bring me love.
I'll keep singing
my happy song.
my happy song.
And let your arms be as warm as the sun from up above. Bring me fun, bring me sunshine, bring me love. Bring me fun, bring me sunshine, bring me love. And thank you to our amazing Grant Simpson. Woo! Now come for lunch. It's time for food.